One NBA player is being mentioned in several trade talks, but is there any possibility he lands in Philadelphia with his old coach? We'll break all of it down here on Philly Take with RB.
Perfect.
What is going on, everybody? RB here. Welcome into the show. Like always, hit the like button if you enjoy the content. Help support the show. Hit the subscribe button, and as always, ring that bell. That way you don't miss any of the coverage as we continue to keep you up to date every single day, getting through the slow period, getting ready in about a month and a half for training camp. I cannot wait. But in the meantime, the Sixers being mentioned in some trade talks. We know the Harden saga continues. Today, I want to talk about a certain player. Let me ask Sixer Nation out there, what do you think about the fit of Pascal Siakam? Is that a player that you think would fit with this Sixers roster? Would you ever entertain that idea? Yes or no? Let me know down below in the comment section. Before we jump right into it, shout out to our sponsor of today's video, BetterHelp, the world's largest online therapy service. I'm sure anybody out there listening right now has either gone through or knows somebody who has been through a tough mental health experience. Personally, I've gone through some tough things the past couple years where I wasn't really feeling the best. And, you never want to be that person to just reach out and have that outlet, until somebody kind of gives you that motivation, right? And I'm here giving you that motivation, telling you that with just a few clicks, you can obtain that right with BetterHelp. Their mission is to make therapy more affordable, and it makes finding a therapist easier because it is online and remote. I wish I personally would have had an easily accessible outlet like this much earlier. It honestly could help save somebody's life. All you have to do is answer a few questions about your therapy needs, and BetterHelp will match you to a professional therapist with just in a few days. And then you could talk to your therapist via text, call, phone call, video call, chat, IM, whatever it is at any time. And if that therapist is not the right fit, you can then switch to a new therapist for free without having to pay more or worrying about your insurance, et cetera. So they make this process very easy. And again, maybe you're not going through something, but you know somebody who really needs it. And if you know somebody who is struggling out there, never be afraid to point them out or reach out and help them get the security that they need. Consider online therapy with BetterHelp and get 10% off of your first month by clicking the link down below in the description, or just go to betterhelp.com/PhillyTake. All right, let's jump into it, man. So I put this tweet out a few days ago, and Sixer fans were chiming in. I said, would Pascal Siakam fit well on the Sixers? I also put out a YouTube community post a few days ago. Like I said, be sure the notification bell's on so you don't miss any of the content. 3 days ago, almost 5,000 votes. 66% say yes, they would trade for Pascal Siakam. So definitely an interesting fit here. You think about Siakam, who will be 30 years old next year. He's a two-time All-Star. He's obviously an NBA champion. He's definitely developed his game, over the years, right? I think he was like pick 25, 26 back in 2016. Sixer fans know that draft well. It's when they took Ben Simmons, Furkan Korkmaz, and TLC in the first round. And, a lot of players went later on in that first round that, the Sixers could have used, Siakam being one. And right now, the Raptors going into this offseason have been one of those teams, right? I think they've been one of those maybe 2 or 3 teams that you look at and you go, what are they doing? What are they doing, right? Obviously, they fired Nick Nurse, who is now the coach of the Sixers. And, they hire, not the sexy hire, but, one of the underrated type of guys. And they're hoping to get some value out of that. Then Gary Trent opts into his player option. They lose Fred VanVleet. There was no way they're paying him, but they bring back Jakob Poeltl. They go out and they sign Dennis Schroeder. So, they pick up a couple guys, and, that's where the Raptors are at right now. So people are wondering, are they going to try to compete? Are they going to do a little bit of a reshape, retool? Are they going to blow it up eventually? What is the plan for the Raptors? And honestly, I don't know if you can say there's an answer right now, kind of like the Chicago Bulls. I don't really know what those teams are doing, but that brings into the question Pascal Siakam, because he's going into the last year of his contract. And based on, what has happened before, Masai Ujiri does not usually like to move his players, even if he lets them expire, like how Kyle Lowry, and some of these other guys did, right? Let them walk. At the end of the day, Pascal Siakam has been a cornerstone for that Raptors franchise, but, he could probably warrant you some value in return. So the Raptors have a decision to make. If you had to ask me right now, on the spot, I think they're going to end up keeping him, but there's also been a lot of talk and a lot of rumors this offseason. The Indiana Pacers have emerged as a legitimate trade contender for Siakam. This came out a couple weeks ago per Mark Stein, who writes about the NBA. And then in addition to that, what really threw this into a chaotic state was Kyle Neubeck from Philly Voice putting out his article with NBA trade rumors, quoting somebody that mentioned the Sixers as a potential landing spot for Pascal Siakam. When I think about Siakam on the Sixers, I think he would be a valuable player. I do, but I'm not going to sit here and say that he's the perfect fit that everybody would think he is, right? First off, let's talk about Nick Nurse. Those two have obviously butted heads before. I don't think their relationship is perfect. I go back to when Nurse got hired by the Sixers. There was only one Toronto Raptor who publicly congratulated him or put up a social media post, and that was Fred VanVleet. It seems like at the end of the tenure, I'm not saying that they have beef, or I'm not saying they wouldn't work, but Nick Nurse, the way he gets on some of the players and according to the reports, screamed at them some games. I guess they didn't like it. I guess it didn't go over well. I'm not saying they don't have respect. Again, Nick Nurse and these players delivered a championship for the Toronto Raptors, but there definitely has been some ups and downs, in the road. But anyway, let's go look at this article in terms of what Kyle Neubeck wrote about. So he talked about a source, Matt Moore from the Action Network. We've talked about him before, and he had essentially put out an article naming some teams that could potentially be suitors for Pascal Siakam. So you think about the Nick Nurse thing, and then you think about the Sixers. Well, if the Sixers were to ever acquire Siakam, maybe Joel Embiid, who's his personal friend, would be able to kind of swing him in here, and maybe Siakam would be willing to come back and play for Nurse again already. But then again, maybe he wants to kind of, do his own thing. Siakam is a valuable player. Like I said, he's going to get a big payday this next season coming up. He's a guy that can probably, guard multiple positions. He can, give you 20 to 25 a night, give you 8 rebounds. And it's weird. He's kind of like a playmaking out of the post 4 who can kind of take the ball duties when you need him. So he could do a lot of different things. Anyway, Matt Moore from the Action Network said there was a lot of chuckling talking about Toronto. And he says, "Oh, I love this song, Fool Me Twice, Shame on Masai." There were among the comments, nevertheless, the Hawks, Thunder, and Sixers in a multi-team trade were among those mentioned as possible landing spots if Toronto does actually move the All-NBA forward. So then Kyle Neubeck wrote about this, and here's why Kyle Neubeck doesn't think that this could really be feasible. Masai Ujiri is famously reluctant to trade his guys, even if the alternative is letting them walk in free agency, just like VanVleet as well. Chris Haynes reported in late June that Siakam would not re-sign with the team that traded for him, and his preference was to stay with the Raptors. So that's a huge domino as well. Siakam's going to hit the free agent open market next year, and he's going to get a lot of money. First off, do the Sixers want to pay a guy who's going to be 30, for 4 or 5 years? I don't know if Siakam's the guy that you give that money to based on what the Sixers are trying to do. Now, again, they're trying to open up a max slot or two, and maybe Siakam would be that fit as the third guy, maybe with Maxey and Embiid, but you have to really believe he's going to be that dude. He had a stellar year last year, but Siakam has had some ups and downs ever since their championship year, and I think he showed even the Raptors fans at times that he's definitely not a 1, and most of the time maybe he's not even a 2. Like maybe he's between a 2 and a 3 in terms of the options, between a second and third option. So it's definitely something to think about. And lastly, Neubeck says that Siakam's relationship with Nick Nurse has been spotty over the years. Siakam was fined $50,000 by the Raptors after a heated exchange with Nurse back in 2021. Raptors players were said to have a strained relationship with Nick Nurse by the end of the tenure, though that appeared to be more of a role player issue and frankly an issue for a team that was frustrated and could not win enough games. You know how I feel about Nick Nurse at this point. I think that he is going to really elevate this Sixers team. Would Siakam be willing to come play with his buddy Joel Embiid and come back all ready for his former coach from the past couple months? I mean, again, they won a championship together. I think the fit would be good, but in my opinion, you would absolutely have to trade Tobias Harris. I do not see any way that Siakam and Tobias would work together on the floor. The one thing that makes it a tough fit for me, that really makes me question whether it's even an upgrade over Tobias, is that Siakam does not shoot the three ball well. Maybe, again, you go out and acquire some shooters and Siakam can do some of the things, slash into the basket and be more of a post player. But, he's going to have to shoot better, right? Last year, he shot 32% from three, well below the average, and you're going to need to be better. I mean, Tobias can shoot better than that. Now, again, Siakam's probably more consistent in scoring the ball, and maybe, Tobias can elevate his game. Maybe Nick Nurse will get more out of Tobias, but, it still comes as a question to me whether Tobias can be consistent enough, even as the third option with Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. At the end of the day, again, I will say I do not think this is going to happen. I don't even think Siakam's going to get traded. I think Masai will keep him in Toronto and eventually try to persuade him to re-sign. Siakam will probably, sign elsewhere next season. But even if he doesn't and he's starting off with a good year and the Raptors are not doing too hot, then Ujiri can go and trade him near the deadline, get a lot more value when teams are desperate. So I don't see it happening, but give me your thoughts down below. Could this be a feasible option? Could you ever see it as a possibility of Siakam to the Sixers? Give me your thoughts down below in the comment section. As always, appreciate everybody for tuning in. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And with that being said, I will catch you all on the next one. Peace.